our email and password form is now complete, and by building this we have covered a lot of material. So before we move on, I'd like to give you a summary of everything that we have learned in this section. So first of all, we have created an email sign-in page which contains a scaffold, and inside the body we have a single child scroll view, a padding, one card widget, and finally our email signing form as a child. In order to present this page, we push a new material page route to our navigator, and we have learned about how basic navigation works in Flutter. Then we started building our email signing form. As part of this, we have added the email and password text fields, and we also have added two buttons, one for submitting the form and one for toggling between signing and registration. We have learned about text editing controller and how it can be used to control the text being edited. And then we have added the signing methods so that we can authenticate a user with Firebase. After that, we have spent some time customizing the email and password text fields. And we have learned about input decoration and how it can be configured to show hints and some error text when the input is invalid. We talked about focus node as a way to help users move between different text fields. And then we looked at input validation and how we can disable the submit button if the email or password are invalid. As part of this, we have introduced a new email and password validators class, which we added as a mixing to our existing email signing form. After that, we have added some custom logic to ensure that we only show the error text if the email and password are invalid, but only after the form has been submitted. And also, we talked about simulating a slow network, and we have added a loading state so that our form is disabled while an authentication request is in progress. And we have implemented all this logic inside this class, which is a stateful widget. And as you can see, we ended up with 5 different state variables that can change in response to some callbacks in this form. And to illustrate this, I'd like to show you a diagram. So as you can see, here we have our email signing form, and every time we get a callback from any of the widgets in this form, we call a method where we can update the state of the form. So for example, when we submit the form by typing on the signing button, we update both the submitted and isLoading state variables. And after that, we make a call to Firebase to sign in or to register a new user. And when this is complete, we call setState again. So as you can see, there are multiple places where setState is called. And every time this happens, the build method of our form is called again. So this is how a stateful widget works, and one thing that I'd like to point out is that we need to be aware of how many times we rebuild our widgets. And the reason for this is that in general we should aim to avoid any unnecessary rebuilds so that our apps perform better. So in this case we have a form that gets rebuilt whenever any of these state variables change. And as you build your own apps, you might want to consider splitting big stateful widgets into smaller ones that are easier to reason about. So if I head over to Android Studio, I could scroll down to the build password text field and build email text field methods. And if I wanted to take things further, I could move these out of the email signing form and create custom email text field and password text field widgets. And the benefit of this would be that I could simplify some of the logic in my email signing form. And while I'm here, I also want to mention one more thing, and that is that while our form works as intended, it would be nice if we could separate the code for building the layout from all the business logic that drives the form itself. And this is something that we will do in the upcoming sections, where we will introduce some more advanced state management techniques so that we can take our knowledge of Flutter to the next level. Okay, so let's continue on the next section.